Welcome to the Hero blog, High Excellence Results Option Model. This is the blog for the website myheroplan.com. It's coming soon. That is a training site that I am putting together. My name is Rashid Hill, and I am here to give you a video blog entry on my daily blog site. One thing I want to clear up is that I'm not a politician. I'm not political. I have no real opinion about what goes on Capitol Hill or locally in the government or whatever. As a government employee, as a concerned citizen, I wanted to do a video blog entry today because of what's going on in the government and with the indecision and the just being realistic, just being genuinely honest. Just the poor display of cooperation amongst adults. So let's get into it. Now, as a concerned citizen and as someone that does not subscribe to having a debate about politics, Democrats, independents, Republicans, I do appreciate listening to C-SPAN or USA Today, Wall Street Journal, various media outlets, and Associated Press, cable networks, anything dealing with the news that allows people to voice their opinion. That is awesome. That is the way the government works, and we appreciate that in the I would say, as many people continue to say, the greatest nation on the earth. So, with that being said, I want to jump right into it because a lot of people may have concerns about some of the terminology, so they just kind of shut it out. Some people have jumped on the Affordable Care Act around the 1st of October and benefited from having access to affordable health care now that they didn't have in the past. So they kind of took their eyes off of the bigger picture, which is the government shutdown, which is the debt ceiling, which is the debt that the government is holding on to that needs to be paid. There are a lot of entities involved in this, and I will try to highlight some of the information and the terminologies and give you some understanding of where we are and why my concern is so high that I had to do an actual video entry on my blog about this. My blog being 8 ways to be 10 times better.co. This is the official Hero blog. Now, my question is, what is wrong with the representatives from all the states that are sitting in this really big room or rooms on Capitol Hill? Why can't they sit down and have a conversation? Why can't they pull it together? Some of them talk about the amount of the debt, and they say we want it to be opened up and funded at a higher level. Some of them want it to be funded at a lower level just to continue down the road. Now, have you heard, and this is some of the terminology that I want to bring to you, have you heard of the CR? You hear that a lot, CR, CR, CR. Some people may be asking, what is a CR? Well, if you say that overseas or in Asia, the CR is a comfort room or a bathroom. In the US, it's a toilet. In the UK, it's a head. There's different terms for it. But here in the US, in the government, when it says CR, it's a continuous resolution. Basically, what I understand that to be is that when you get to a point where you don't have the approval or the funding approved to continue to pay the bills for the government to all the debtors that have purchased deeds and bonds from the government, then you basically have to come down to extending the debt, the time to pay the debt. So a continuing resolution basically is, hey, give us a little more time, let us use a little more money, and let's keep the government running until we can decide how to pay the debt. So that, but a lot of people, mostly the representatives on the Republican side, have decided that a CR, which is not clean, quote unquote, they have put attachments onto it because they felt they could piggyback upon a CR in order to get their personal agendas through, quote unquote, defunding Obamacare, or pushing the issue of taking that and shelving it for a while affecting negatively, obviously, millions of people out there that would not be able to get the care that they need. Therefore, that's not on the table by the Democratic presidency, and the Democratic presidency says, hey, we would like a continuous resolution in order to have that conversation that you want to have, Republicans, but we want it to be clean. We want it to be without any riders or attachments so that we can pass it and we can continue doing what we do for the people of this country. That's paying the bills and representing them well. So the Republicans say, hey, we're representing our people very well from our states and our constituencies because we are not giving in to what we don't believe in, and that's the Affordable Care Act and some parts of it. So they are fighting tooth and nail for their particular constituencies, their states and their areas, in order to get that fixed before they approve any monies. Unfortunately, that negatively affects the rest of the country, and they don't see that. Now, you may want to know debt. What is what is a debt plan? What is debt on the government level? You may want to know what is a debt ceiling. Well, let me just give it to you this way. Right now, we're in a government shutdown, the fourth day, going on the fifth day if they don't do anything by 12 o'clock tonight. Therefore, government shutdown. So when you say government shutdown, do you really understand the magnitude of that? Let me give you something that might help you to understand the magnitude of a government shutdown. A government shutdown, that's like saying, how would you feel if you couldn't pay your rent, you couldn't pay for your car, you couldn't pay for your child to go to school, you couldn't pay for the food that you need to sustain yourself from day to day, you couldn't take any vacations, you couldn't get up and walk outside because you didn't have the means to do so. How would you feel if you were in that position? Now, let's put it this way, and we'll get to the amounts later, and I'm gonna give you a parallel to what I just said. You may be asking, why is there a government shutdown? Well, let me give you a better question. What does it mean to you? A government shutdown on a personal level, people outside the government, people that's not furloughed, that you're not in that 800,000, it may not mean much to you. But I bet you got a friend. I bet you got an associate. I bet you know somebody that's affected by this government shutdown. That right there is important enough. With the amount of military people, amount of veterans in this country and living outside this country, which are a very smart idea, the amount of veterans that are affected by this government shutdown, everybody, probably within three people that you know, is connected to a veteran or a military member or a government employee that has supported the government by working and doing their job faithfully year after year after year, and they expect to get paid under that same government. Therefore, it's not about, this is how it directly affects you. When they standing inside the House of Representatives or the Senate and they're saying, "Hey, we need to fund the veterans." That's great. That's wonderful. But what if you are a government employee and your next door neighbor is a veteran? He gets to go back to work because he's a government employee and a veteran. He gets his pay. She gets their pay. But you are still at home because you're not emergency essential, because the next one comes up as being a FEMA document that's emergency essential. What if you are working for the state government and you are voluntary fireman? Well, you have to respond to fires. You have to respond to emergency issues. But guess what? You're not part of what the Republicans want to put out there on the table for the president to sign. But at the end of the day, why would you want to give the benefit to some and not others when everybody needs help? Because the longer this goes on, the more people are out of work. And the more people that's out of work basically hurts the government that much more. It's not doing anybody any good on Republicans, independents, or Democrats. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what party you're supporting. It's just the wrong thing to do. Now let me ask you, do you know how much the government's in debt? I bet you most of the people in the US have no clue how much in debt the US is. But that's okay because it takes a lot of money to run the government. And just like regular families, there is a credit issue. Yes, the US government has to borrow money that they don't have. Yes, the US government does use money that they don't have in order to pay bills, in order to function, in order to support a lot of the programs that you benefit from. The government has to borrow money from somewhere, somehow, in order to keep that going. That is a benefit in this society. So please don't badmouth the government for borrowing money against your grandkids. So, because they got to pay it back one day. Now, here's another issue. How much was the question, right? So, right now, they say the government debt is 16.7 trillion. Yeah, that's with a trillion in debt. And if they actually collected all of the monies to pay back debtors, right now, the government would have about $30 billion to pay some of their debt obligation. Now, unfortunately, some of us may not catch that. Some of us may not understand that 30 billion, even though that's a very large number, is nothing close to 16 trillion dollars in debt. Therefore, when the bill was passed or the agreement was made by the House and the Senate that they would approve, yet reluctantly, $960 billion towards keeping the government open when they really need at least a trillion to function all agencies. Now maybe you can understand why that 900 billion doesn't come close to the trillion that's needed to keep the government functioning appropriately at the level it needs to be for all agencies, not just the emergency agencies, but for the 800,000 people that are affected by the government shutdown. Now, how does it affect you personally? How does it affect you, not a government employee? Let me tell you right now. The government is going to be obligated to pay back $300 million per day that this government is shut down across this country. Do you understand what hole they are digging? Can you see the deepness, the depth, the underlining problem that is caused by a $300 million per day shutdown? That ain't just the government agencies. That's not just the government employees. That is everything that that government has to pay for that they're not paying for because people are not in business, people are not working. When people aren't working, people aren't making money. If you're not making money, how do you spend money? The government functions off of people spending money. They tax them, they get money, and it goes back into the economy. If you're not purchasing anything, there's no money going into the economy. And the longer the money is not going into the economy, guess what happens? The economy shuts down. When the economy shuts down, then the credit and the value of the US of A is lost across the globe. Wall Street will crash. Yes, Wall Street will crash, and there will be no funding for the US government outside of where they've gone before. So, Israel, you're going to step up and give us back our money because you are probably the only ones that will continue to get money that's not deserved. Okay. Anyway, I'm Rashid Hill. If you have any questions, comments, or any bad mouthing, hey, I'm here for it. I'm gonna finish up with this. Two things you may want to know: what's the difference between a shutdown and a debt crisis? Since right now we're talking about all this debt, well, I'm gonna tell you. A shutdown is when the government does not have the legal authority to spend the money on non-essential services, right? Okay. So essential services basically means there are certain people, certain areas that there's depots and function and installations that are for profit. Therefore, they have working funds to pay their employees. There are other areas that installations, Army, Air Force, Marine, Navy, that have to shut down because they are paid directly by the government. What is a debt crisis? Which basically we're in, and if we're not in it, we will be in it very soon. A debt crisis, the government is mandated to spend the money, but they don't have legal authority to borrow more in order to spend the money. So right now, the the problem we're in is the government shut down because of the crisis, right? Because the money is not available and they can't go borrow the money because the House of Representatives and the Senate and the government basically can't come together to agree upon a bill in order for them to act upon that. So if the Treasury, or if the appropriations people would be given the authority to go and get more money, they would go get more money. But right now, there's no legal authority to borrow any money because of the crisis and thus the shutdown. When will the government run um, out of the borrowing authority? Well, basically, they can borrow money, or they can actually pass a bill, or they can have the ability to go and borrow money up until October 17th. After October 17th, that is D Day. That is what is called D Day. Doomsday, baby. Because if they don't get the money in, if they don't get the approvals by October 17th, if they don't stop playing games by October 17th, then yes, the government will go into default. Has the government ever, U.S. government, has it ever defaulted on their bills or their debt in the past? No. They've had shutdowns, they've had furloughs, they have sequestration, but they've never defaulted. And right now, it's going under if they don't make a decision by October 17th. By that time, there will be so many people that's out of work that it just won't even be it won't be something that you want to talk about. But if they don't make up their mind, if they don't get something together by the end of October, the money will dry up. And you will see massive, massive problems across the globe because of the U.S. government defaulting on their loans and shutting down. I'm Rashid Hill, and I enjoy speaking with you. If you got any questions and concerns, then hit me up. This is Rashid, and I'm at 8 ways to be 10 times better.co, the hero channel, and this is the official blog video for you today. Coming with you, coming at you, living it, loving it. Let's grow, let's go. Peace. I'm out.